family members and friends to hear as well, so thank you very much for that. And it is my distinct pleasure right now to introduce our speaker for the special address, our UConn Stamford alumnus, Charlie Ira. Charles K. Mahira Ira currently works at Synchrony as a reliability engineer. As a reliability engineer, he helps maintain and upgrade infrastructure for Synchrony's commercial train. He graduated from UConn Stamford in 2021 as part of the first cohort of students to go through the full computer science degree program here in Stamford. During his undergraduate program, Charles was involved with several clubs, including data analytics and computer science club, helped Professor Bradford with research into blockchains, and worked as the first intern in the Synchrony Digital Technology Center on campus. In his free time, Charles enjoys watching movies, playing games, photography, traveling, and spending time with friends and family. So please join me in giving a big welcome to Charlie Ira.
Good evening, class of 2024. I'm from Stamford, so it's kind of a big full circle moment to be speaking here today on the stage that you want. I have so many fond memories of my time here at UConn Stamford. Too many to name just one, but one of my favorite pastimes was reading the newspaper when you still subscribe to the New York Times and had the paper copies. I don't know if you still do that, but so I was in the game room one day, just reading a headline, and it was a headline that said, "Flu in China," right? I was like, oh, I joked with my friends saying, that'll never affect us. We laughed about it, and we carried on with our day in the game room. A year and a half later, that's when I saw them again, for the next time at graduation. So, big time skip right there. About graduation, there are some things that I remember about that day. I remember how happy I was to see my friends. I remember walking around gingerly not to crease my sneakers. But mostly, I just remembered how uncertain the future seemed at that time. I'm constantly reminded about how quickly circumstances can change. You might have a plan, but then life gets in the way. I want to tell you all about 2 times that I thought things were going all right, and then the rug got pulled out from underneath. Though at the time it felt like I was at rock bottom, those experiences shaped me for the better, I feel. Originally, I never thought I was going to be UConn basketball. After graduating high school, I fully intended to go to the Philippines and graduate over there from my father's alma mater, Ateneo. During my time in the Philippines, I had a lot of fun. I made some lifelong friends that I'm still in touch with to this day. I got to spend some time with my grandparents before they passed away. And I learned I was in over my head. You know, when we're young, we think we're invincible, but that quickly changed. It was a big change to go from Stanford to all the way to Manila. Maybe too big of a change. By the end of the year, I was handed a letter that told me that I had failed out of school. The embarrassment that I felt was almost too much. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I kind of shut the world out. And I had to have a hard conversation with myself, never letting this happen. So I got to work. I had to start from square one again. I went to NCC, did that, and transferred over here to UConn. My previous shortcomings, though, in the Philippines drove me to study harder than I ever had before. And I still carried that guilt with me throughout my time in school. My plan to study abroad had suddenly become a lie, and I started changing my story. I didn't tell people about my real intentions. And I kept that to myself all the way until I had an interview where I work with now at Synchrony. My former colleague Joe Nelly asked me about a time that I had failed, and in an instant I laid my story to bear. everything that I've been back in the States for several years now, head down, studying, eyes on the prize. And I never thought that my efforts were enough. But he told me years later, after I had been hired and I'm a full-time employee at Synchrony now, he said it was because of my story and the resilience that I had in that situation to take a bad situation and turn it into a win for myself. He thought that was an incredible story, and he said that's why I skipped several rounds of interviews afterwards. I got the job full-time right there. It was incredible to have that sort of validation for me and my efforts, and I never take it for granted ever since. But, and if that was the end of my story, that would be pretty cool, right? Fail out and then work my way back up to the top and get converted from an intern to a full-time, right? Life is great. But that's only half the story, and that's what you see on the outside. But we all have our internal struggles on the inside as well. As I was going through my school journey, I was also helping a friend who was going through a life path similar to mine. Grinding for community college and then transferring out to a bigger school to get a full-time degree, job, the whole story, right? Suleiman and I met when we were back in high school, first day. I asked him for a pencil, and the rest is history. We bounced from job to job, starting at Foot Locker in the mall, grabbing shoes for customers, working our way up to programming and banking. When he told me that he accepted the job full-time, I was so happy for him. This was years of work together, bouncing ideas off of each other, pushing each other to be better, and in an instant it was all taken away. I had never experienced such a profound loss as I did last year. And after that, everything seemed irrelevant, especially work, and I had to really take some time to think for myself when I was at the lowest of those lows. But I was reminded of how I felt back after the Philippines, and I came back. Everything that I had worked for was taken away, and it seemed that I was on the path to have that happen to me again. And I resolved that I have to turn this tragedy into a strength, into how can I let this tragedy define me and my trajectory? Can I use it as fuel to propel me forward? These are questions that I'm still reckoning to this day personally, but I think I'm on the trend upwards. I'll just keep it short. If there's one thing that I want you to take away from my story personally, as a student who just graduated and is headed out to the world, is that you need to be resilient, just echoing every message that you've heard before. Life is hard, times are tough, and things won't always go as you plan. You need to be resilient. You need to be resilient in the face of uncertainty and during times of discomfort. But be happy knowing that if you are doing the work consistently, someone will notice and will give you your shot. Success doesn't happen overnight. I am a clear story to that. It took me 7 years to graduate college, right? It took me a while, but success doesn't happen overnight. So be prepared for the long haul. But also be ready to go and pivot at a moment's notice when life throws something at your way. Be true to yourself and never let that hunger